Here we go. It's going to be a busy Tuesday here on Chicago Bears Now and around the NFL. My name is Harrison Graham. We're going to get you caught up on the latest news and rumors surrounding the Bears. Updated look at the Bears roster cuts tracker. And we will be going live today at around 2:30 Central Time, about a half hour before final roster cuts are made. We'll react live with all of you, so be sure to subscribe and join us for that. Right before we started filming, the latest cut came in. Tom Pelissero with the note that Brett Rypien has been released. Since he is a veteran, he does not get subject to waivers, so he's free to sign elsewhere, and I think it's pretty simple what's going to happen here. If a team offers him a spot on their 53-man roster as a backup, he'll go sign there. If not, he'll re-sign with the Bears practice squad, so I think we'll probably know in the next couple of days where this thing lands for Brett Rypien. I think the Bears would certainly like him back and would offer him more money than a typical practice squad member, but despite the emergency third QB rule being vetoed by the NFLPA, Bears still only going to carry two quarterbacks on the active roster, although as of now, technically Austin Reed has yet to be waived. All right, Collin Johnson also cut earlier this morning as the Bears are waiving the 6'6" receiver. Now, Brad Biggs here has the note that he is expected to return to the practice squad, also has the note that he is healthy now, and that's really what cost him here, right? He balled out in the Hall of Fame game with 2 touchdowns, and then we didn't see him the rest of training camp or the preseason, and it's kind of been the story of his career, his health. When he's healthy, I think he can be a contributor. I don't think he can be a star, but he's got a big frame. He can play on special teams, good blocker, he can throw him jump balls. I still like him. I hope he clears waivers and can be a guy that potentially gets called up on game day sometimes, and who knows, maybe he's on the 53 at some point this season due to injuries, but we'll see if he gets claimed. It wouldn't shock me if he did, because when he was out there, he looked the part, looked worthy of being on an NFL roster, but if not, he would certainly return to the practice squad. Some other roster buzz surrounding this team. Biggs also reporting that Patrick Scales kind of trending toward heading toward short-term IR. He also added that 3 players might be IR bound, and with the new rules, you can designate 2 of those guys before roster cuts to kind of protect. But if you have more than that, you're going to have to carry at least 1 on the initial 53 in this case, since it sounds like 3 players could be in that mold. Obviously, several roster cuts still to go here, and I think you're down to 8 players that could fit these short-term IR roles. Patrick Scales, we already mentioned here. I had Collin Johnson as a candidate for that, but he's been waived, so now you're down to Dante Pettis, who's been banged up. I think Larry Borum's a prime candidate, as is Jacob Martin. Karan Amagaji returned to practice recently. Do you want to put him on short-term IR to kind of give him more of a ramp-up time? Maybe that's an option. Ryan Bates, Zach Pickens, Noah Sewell, some guys who have been banged up recently. I do want to touch on this long snapper situation a little bit here. If Patrick Scales does go to short-term IR, and it sounds like that's a very real possibility here, should we be a little bit concerned? Because I did not think Cameron Lyons was very consistent as a snapper. Torrey Taylor had some really impressive holds on some high snaps, so you feel good about him as a holder, but I want my long snapper to put the snap on the money. And I get not everyone's going to be perfect, but I do wonder if Scales does go to short-term IR. Is Lyons the answer? Do they go and try and find someone else? I'm definitely going to monitor that. I think long snapper is a position we don't really think about until you start noticing, oh, these snaps are a little weary. So definitely going to keep an eye on that over the next day or so. All right, so we showed you guys 8 players that could be candidates for short-term IR. If you had to predict which 3 players will go on short-term IR, let us know down in the comment section down below. If I had to predict, I think Scales does. When Biggs reports stuff like that, usually he's pretty accurate. I'll go Larry Borum and Jacob Martin, 2 guys that I think the Bears would like to have on this team but are banged up right now. I think those are some players that could start on IR and then be activated later in the season. And if you do go on short-term IR, that means you're at least going to miss the first 4 games. Another cut here of note, Byron Cowart released. He's also been mentioned as a possibility. that could return to the practice squad and be elevated in week 1, week 2 potentially, because remember, Zach Pickens is dealing with an injury right now, and he could miss some time early in the year. So maybe Cowart starts on the practice squad, but as a game day elevation, you can do that up to 3 times with practice squad players. But he gets cut, and I think this was kind of predictable once they traded for Chris Williams, that probably meant Byron Cowart was someone who would be cut because of that. So that leaves us with these cuts up to this point in time. Keith Randolph Jr., Tommy Sweeney, Douglas Coleman, Nsimba Webster, Ian Wheeler, all going to IR with injuries. Khalid Kareem, forgot to mention him yesterday. He's been cut as well. Jatiri Carter, Jerome Carvin, Javen White, Paul Moala. We got Quindell Johnson, who was cut yesterday. So was Michael Dwumfor, Jalen Hutchings, Peter LeBlanc, John Jackson, Byron Cowart, Collin Johnson, and Brett Rypien. So as of now, the Bears roster is down to 75 players, if my math is correct, and you still have 22 players to go. So a lot of movement here. Again, a couple of those will be IR stashes for short term, so keep an eye on that. But still got, 6 hours or so till roster cuts. So yeah, it's gonna be a busy few days here. Coming up next, I want to explore a player that was cut by another team today that I just wonder if the Bears will have interest in him. So stay tuned for that. Plus another veteran that was cut, and I just kind of want to dive into a take I had a few years ago that really didn't age that well. All right, game time. Today's sponsor. Get off the couch, start going to sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, and more, and get your tickets with Game Time, the best ticketing service out there. Download the app today. Use our promo code CHATSPORTS once you create an account. It's going to get you $20 off your first purchase only. Terms do apply there. Game Time is awesome. You've got views from the seats within the app. They're going to show you the best deals, including their super deals, which kind of is a combination of quality seats, but for the best bang for your buck. For example, you might see seats in the 200 levels that are $30 off for a limited time if you're on the app at the right time. If you want to go check out the Bears and Caleb Williams in week 1 against the Titans, you should do so. Get your tickets with Game Time, Cubs, White Sox, concerts, comedy shows, plenty of things to go attend. If you don't live in the Chicago area, I'm guessing wherever you do live, there are events to go to, and you got to get your tickets online. So trust Game Time as your ticketing sponsor. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. What time is it? It's game time. Get out and have some fun. All right. Could the Bears put in a waiver claim for SIaki Ika? I do just wonder, the 2023, so last year third-round pick, Browns are already moving on. Now, just a side note, the Bears did trade for a defensive tackle with the Browns just a few days ago for Chris Williams and not Ika, and I would imagine at the time the Browns were knowing they could go down this road with Ika, so maybe the Bears are already tipping their hand like, yeah, we're not interested in him. And look, they wouldn't have a bad reason for that, right? He's been terrible. He played less than 100 snaps last year, graded out really poorly. And I talked to our Browns host, Matthew Peterson. He essentially said, look, he's just a fat guy. He's just not that good. Now, I'm intrigued a little still because he's 6'3", 350. He's a bowling ball. In theory, he should be a decent run stopper. And I don't know, like in theory, I don't think I think you could do worse, is what I'm trying to say, than a guy behind Andrew Billings, because you don't really have a true backup nose. Like Zach Pickens played nose last year. He's not really a nose. Like, he's more of a 3-tech based on his body frame. Ika is 335, 340. He came out at like 350 plus. Maybe that's been part of the issue. Maybe he's just not in good shape. But I do wonder if the Bears will kick the tires. This would be a guy 2 years ago or last year even, they would for sure throw a claim in. Will they now, with how deep their roster is, are they willing to then waive someone else if they do win the waiver claim? The Bears are 9th in the waiver claim order, so we'll see if they would even get him. I would imagine some bad teams near the top of the waiver claim order just, throw a dart here, kind of like the Bears did the last couple of years, because why not? You're not ready to win right now, and you're trying to improve your team, whereas the Bears are trying to win right now. But I'll be curious to see if they throw in a claim, because clearly he has some pedigree being a third-round pick. I thought the Browns overdrafted him, but pretty decent college player, but that has not translated up to this point. What do you guys think? What would you do? Should the Bears put in a waiver claim for Ika? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I'd be open to it, but remember, when you put in a claim, you got to be willing to lose a player. So we'll see if the Bears, A, put in a claim, and B, win that claim if they do. All right, I wanted to talk about Allen Robinson a little bit. The Giants released him earlier today. He was fighting for a roster spot there, and they're opting to go with some young guys, which I think leaves his NFL future in doubt. And look, his fall has been fast. In 2020, he was undoubtedly, in my opinion, but I think in most people's opinion, a top 15 receiver in this league. I made the claim at the time he was top 10 because he was putting up big numbers with bad quarterbacks like Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky and so on and so forth. And now it's 2024, and he might be out of the league. I mean, remember in 21, his last year in Chicago, he was not productive, and we put all the blame on Matt Nagy, and I'm sure he deserved some. I mean, that whole ship just fell off. But I think his time has aged. He goes to the Rams in 22. They were done with him by like week 6. They trade him to the Steelers the next offseason. Didn't do much in Pittsburgh. Gets signed by the Giants. Not exactly a loaded roster. Can't make their team. He's just kind of done, it feels like. And look, hand up. I started the extend AR movement here on this channel. They ended up franchise tagging him instead, which proved to be the right move because he just hasn't been good, and he can't separate consistently anymore. It goes to show in this league, NFL not for long. He's obviously had a nice long career, but it could fall off quick. And it wouldn't shock me if he's done here because if he can't make the Giants roster, what team is he going to make? And beyond that, what team is he going to get snaps for? Like it feels like Allen Robinson's career is over. And kudos to Ryan Pace, man. They didn't pay him, and that ended up being the right move because could you imagine if they had him for $22 million per year on a 4-year deal? I mean, he'd probably be coming off your books like right now, but the last couple of years with that contract and lack of production would not have been ideal. All right, later today, we will be live as roster cuts come in, probably around 2:30, 2:45 at the latest, so subscribe and hit those noties. That way you know when we go live. Producer Cullen and myself will have you guys covered, so we will see you then. If any major news drops before then, we'll be back with another video. Probably some YouTube shorts for some minor deals, so keep us locked in for that as well. Anyway, we'll see you then. Bear down.